want you to think of the last time you were pulled over the police. Have you been pulled over? Did you ever wonder, is this going to be a positive ticket or a negative one? Probably not, right? I know that I got pulled over a few months ago, and it was simply because when they ran the license plates on my truck that I was driving, my last name was my maiden name on my license plate registration, whereas my driver's license was my married name. They were pulling over to see if I was the same person. Can you imagine? But think about this. We tend to always think when we see the police that it's going to be negative. I know when I got pulled over, my daughter immediately squealed in delight and started laughing. Oh, you're in trouble now. Isn't that what we think? However, there is an innovative police precinct in Canada that thinks that the assumption needs to be changed. So for years, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, detached in Richmond, Canada, ran like any other bureaucracy, and they had the same results. Can you imagine? They had a 65% repeat offender rate. They were experiencing spiraling rates of youth crime. And one example said that street racing had become a common practice, and the police had come to expect approximately 4 deaths a year from street racing. Whew, that's a lot. There's a well-established best practice approach to cracking down on crime, and that is to pass harsher laws, right? Sentences, stronger sentences, and zero tolerance, just to let people know that they mean what they mean. Well, this forward-thinking Canadian detachment, led by a new superintendent by the name of Ward Clapham, challenged that assumption, challenged the negativity. He asked himself, why does all of our policing efforts have to be reactive, negative, and after the fact? What if instead, just focusing on catching criminals, police devoted a significant effort on eliminating criminal behavior before it happened? They wanted to be tough on crime, but also tough on the causes of crime. To this end, they experimented with positive tickets. The focus was to catch youth doing the right thing and giving them a ticket for positive behavior. Can you imagine the shock you would get if you got a ticket for positive behavior instead of a negative behavior? So the ticket itself was to grant the recipient with entry to a movie or maybe a local youth center. So get this. They have given out an average of 40,000 positive tickets a year. Now, mind you, this is 3 times the number of negative tickets that they were giving over the same period. Wow. Now, the negative tickets being approximately 13,000, in case you're wondering. So it turns out that this ratio, which is approximately 3 positive to 1 negative, is called a losada line. And it's the minimum ratio of positives to negatives. So what was very interesting in policing, what was the impact of it? Listen to this. They reduced repeat offenders from 65% to 5%. They had a 95% success rate. And what did it cost the taxpayers? Because this is always what interests us, right? That bottom line. Get this. 1/10 of the amount of the traditional justice system. Can you imagine? In the last 8 years, there hasn't even been a single street racing fatality, and youth crime has been cut in half. Now, policing wasn't always synonymous with innovation, but Ward's team thinks that everyone from policymakers to managers can benefit from positive ticket thinking. So I want you to think about this the next time you get pulled over. Is it going to be a positive ticket or a negative ticket? So how did this positive ticket initiative build the community? So what's the difference between a community and an institution? So Greenleaf answers, stating that it's love. He says that it begins with unlimited liability. His view is that institutions limit liability. The community doesn't. He also goes to suggest that institutions are usually people using rather than people building. So any human service where he who is served should be loved in the process requires community, a face-to-face group in which the liability for each other and all for one is unlimited or as close as is possible to get. Truth and respect are the highest in this circumstance, and an accepted ethic that gives strength to all is reinforced. Where there is not a community, trust, respect, and ethical behavior are difficult for the young to learn and for the old to maintain. Living in a community as one's basic involvement generates an exportable surplus of love, which the individual may carry into his many involvements with institutions, which are usually not communities. They then roll over into the businesses, churches, governments, and even our schools. So, if love is an essential attribute, how does a leader demonstrate this love to the members of the community? Greenleaf also continues by sharing that love is the greatest attribute which differentiates a community and an institution. Remember that. It's the greatest thing. A community is based on love, trust, and respect. There are several ways to create a community within an organization or within a business, a school, a church, even a family. And the first thing is simply to lead by example. You want to be the example of the community. And as a leader, part of your job is to inspire those around them. And then in turn, after you've inspired someone to greatness, they're going to inspire others because they have learned by example. So to do this, you must show them the way by doing it yourself. So stop and think about those inspiring people who have changed the world with their examples. One of my favorite is Gandhi. Wow, can you imagine how he spent most of his life living what he preached? He was committed to non-violent resistance. Just imagine how he led. And he created an environment that brought India to independence because his life proved by his example that it could be done. So although Gandhi's situation is probably different from yours, the principle is the same. When you lead by example, you're going to create a picture of what's possible. People are going to look at you and say, well, if he can do it, I think I can do it, right? And when you lead by example, you make it easier for others to follow you. We also want to distribute power throughout our organization. So Greenleaf suggests that the best opportunity to achieve a distribution of power through an organization is to flatten that leadership. Sometimes that hierarchy is too tall, and we want to flatten that so that we can create an equality amongst the people. And this can be achieved through building teams, collaboration, recognition, and especially building strong relationships. There's a legendary businessman by the name of Jack Welch, and he is a businessman with GE, General Electric. And Welch knew that he really needed to push GE to new heights, and he was really frustrated because he was going to have to turn everything upside down as it was going downhill. So he developed an idea of boundaryless organization. So I want you to think about that. Boundaryless organization. What does that mean? Well, in his idea, it meant that everyone was free to brainstorm and think of ideas. They didn't have to wait for somebody higher up them or one of their leaders to think of it. He wanted his team turned loose, and he wanted to create a synergy and to listen to ideas from anyone in their company. And as he did this, everyone from the very lowest line workers to the senior managers got his attention. If they had something to say or just a new idea that might make the company better, he would listen. And it didn't take his team long to figure it out, that he cared and that he listened. He stayed true to his passions. He stayed true to himself. He stayed true to the policy of listening. And he became an incredible, successful company, GE did, under Welch's management. His team was willing to follow him because they knew that he would keep his word. Next, when we look at distributing power, we want to look at how we can do that. And we can do it through team building. And that's probably the most important investment a leader can make because it builds trust, It mitigates conflict, it encourages communication, and it encourages and increases collaboration. So effective team building really means that we're engaging more employees. And not only engaging more employees, but our employees are becoming more engaged. And this really is going to create a company culture that is going to boost that bottom line. A team builder is someone who has a strong personality, who provides a substance that's going to hold a team together. And they're going to have a common purpose, a common objective, and a common vision. And that's where that vision statement really comes into play. This is accomplished mostly by asking the right questions so that we are able to direct and guide, and we're able to confront those right questions so that we can see through to the essence and find a good way of getting to the end result. Second, we want to look at collaboration. So we refuse to be so profit hungry that we forget to be part of industry, innovation, and inspiration, that we're collaborating not just with the teams within our company, but also that we're looking to other companies and seeing how we can work together with them in order to create better marketplace and better products. I love this. We want to see how silos. I love the theory of silos. So I live in the Midwest. I've grown up in the Midwest, and I always think of competition and collaboration as silos. So when you are in a competition, it means that you have one silo and all the farms are competing. Whereas in collaboration, we're all silos, we're all holding the materials and the resources, and we're working together to create a better farm. So competition really falsely leads us to believe that we're each isolated silos. Instead, we all store the resources and responsible for the welfare of all of the inhabitants. And when we look at that as global marketplace, we need to realize that we are all silos on the same farm. And how can we work together? Next, we want to look at recognition. So community recognition is simply acknowledging a social group. We want to acknowledge achievements. We want to give compliments. We want to have awards. We want to have celebrations. We want to bring attention to contributions. Fourth, develop those strong relationships. Remember, as a leader, that we really want to understand that our community is only possible because we have strong relationships. And we're not just referring to peer-to-peer, but you need to have relationships from one level to another, from an executive to somebody that might be on the front lines. You really need to be committed to coaching, giving, and receiving feedback. You need to be committed to integrity. You need to make sure that you don't scapegoat or point fingers. Instead, you really want to develop others and never settle for less. Next, third, provide education and growth opportunities. So your ability as a leader is really to strive for lifelong learning, and that's critical to your success. But you also want to get ahead your company and your community by providing education and growth opportunities for those in your company. Did you know that the most successful people actually tend to read 2 to 3 hours per day? Isn't that amazing? Now also pay attention to what they're reading. Pretty sure if you're reading Harlequin romances, you might want to rethink that, right? But these people also belong to organizations that encourage learning. They encourage current information. They encourage the gaining of information and sharing ideas. Now, growth learning is going to help expand your mind, and that's where you're acquiring information that you didn't have before so that you can do something that you didn't do before. So some of the very best thinkers in the world today and in the past, think of Da Vinci, produced some of the very best materials ideas because they were using continuous education and that they were always expanding their minds. So leaders have that ability to really build communities through learning opportunities. And this occurs by providing experiences where our members and where people can use their knowledge and creativity to solve problems. So Robert Greenleaf shares, the greatest essential element of continuous education is to close the information gap. And the gap is created between what one knows now and what one needs to know in order to solve a problem. So fourth, we really want to provide a clear vision, and we discussed quite a bit of this in our mission statement and also within the vision statements. But you really want to develop a sense of a community when your team and your community and your corporation shares core interests and core goals, that you have a vision of the future of your company, your department, or even your team. So what we want to do is we want to get people united by sharing the goals. And we might even want to look at combining team members from different departments in order to discuss and to see how the vision and the goals work together. So there's a strategic sales consultant and an author by the name of Adrian Davis who believes that by sharing your goals with your teams, it's going to help you bring together each other. It says, quote, "A shared goal between your team and your partners opens up collaboration to a whole new level. Working towards the same goal redefines a relationship and strengthens your teamwork. Each party represents an integral component to a goal success." So make sure that everybody on your team is aware of your mission statement, your vision statement, and that they are a very valuable part in helping to achieve the goals. And then you want to also show them that the sense of working together toward that common goal is even going to bring you closer together as a community. Next, listen. And this is probably one of the most important things, is genuinely listening to others. Through listening, we're demonstrating that we value ideas, we value opinions, and we want what people have to say. So leader managers, their actions and their values convey the shape of the culture of the company. So think about this. When you listen effectively, you are building a work environment that is based on respect. So there are two key cultural developments which come from this. Firstly, that a company is going to benefit from a heightened sense of inclusion. When you're listened to, you feel that you're included and that you're important, and all of a sudden team dynamics and community dynamics are strengthened and improved. Next, the second is that you get more creativity. You're putting more minds into the bucket, more innovations. And if people are allowed to really put forth their ideas and their responses, and they know that they're going to be listened to, they become more confident and even more innovative. So take just a few moments at the end of this part and pause. And I want you to sit down with your learning journal and ponder and reflect on what other ways you can build a community as a leader.